Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
As we continue our season and indeed our tour of great English racing circuits, we find ourselves deposited here today in perhaps the most famous of them all. Brands Hatch has played home to almost every kind of racing imaginable, from Formula One to touring cars to today's GT3 machinery and the like. And today we let loose the Radical Racing Challenge on its historic curves. Hello everyone and welcome to today's Radical coverage, brought to you here live on Apex Racing TV. My name is DJ Clark, joined in the commentary booth by Aaron Smith, with Samuli Kumo serving as our director and producer behind the scenes. And Aaron, this is going to be a bit of a tricky one around here. Brands Hatch, certainly a historic circuit, but a very old school circuit where overtaking is going to be in high priority.
Yeah, as you were saying, it is one of those really old school circuits, kind of one of the only ones really left around the world. Most of them kind of do happen in this country, actually. We have as many old circuits as you can get. We've got Cadwell Park, we've got Snetterton as well, if you want to count that. Of course, Alton Park, and Brands Hatch, as you said, being one of the most famous in the world. It's just so famous for, as you said, the amount of racing that's been here, the history for it. Of course, probably one of the most famous races being James Hunt in '76. That was a pretty eventful race, to say the least. And not sure we'll get quite the same eventfulness from today, but of course one can hope so. And yeah, this track is one of the greatest of its age.
Yeah, it certainly is. And talking about the field here today, have a little bit of a smaller field right now. 13 drivers out on the track, but qualifying wrapping itself up there for Robert Woodward, as you saw him getting deposited back down onto the starting grid right now. And indeed, we are ready to walk you through that starting grid. It is going to be Mika Hulkkonen starting in pole position, followed by Rafael Peone. Then it's Robert Woodward and Santiago Lieb. Then it'll be Jorge Gonzaga, followed by Bruno Meiler, Dakota Wolter, and James Kalinowski. Mark Hearn lines up in P9, followed by Roger Martin. Then it's Vitali Mefeseni and Christopher Yannicus there in P12. P13 will be JPW Ringwood to round out your grid. 13 drivers here, maybe a little bit of a blessing in disguise, as there's not going to be nearly as much drivers trying to compete for a single corner as we get down in going track conditions. Just about perfect there, almost no wind at about 2 miles an hour, about 78 degrees Fahrenheit out on track right now, so it's going to be good conditions when we get ready to go here for our standing start. Still waiting for about 3 drivers to work their way onto the grid, including your pole sitter, Mika Holkinen, also Bruno Myler and Dakota Wolter a little bit farther back in the field, as their Myler is going to show up on the grid right now. And everybody else working their way down. They do have a full 2 minutes to be able to get themselves out onto the track, and these drivers are going to use this time here at this point to just get themselves set. It's a fixed racing series, so not really messing around with setups or anything at that point, but probably just a little bit of mental preparation as they get ready to dive down into Paddock Hill Bend and begin this lap. As there, Mika Holkinen is going to be on the front of the grid. He is all formed up now, just waiting for Dakota Wolter. As there, we're going to see him on the grid as well, and that means we are ready to go racing here from Brands Hatch as the lights begin to come on, and we look towards the flag stand as there go the lights, and here we go. We are racing in Brands. That is a terrible getaway there from Peony. A little bit of wheel spin off the line, and that car is going to immediately find himself all the way back down into 9th position. A brilliant getaway from Lieb and Woodward up at the front of the field. They're immediately going to be challenging Holkinen. Lieb able to get that move, and now Woodward in that number 1 machine going to be trying to fight as well, trying to push that number 8 a little bit farther off the track. Contact there from behind, and that sends Holkinen around.
Yeah, that did not look like a very good overtaking opportunity there into turn 3 at all. And yeah, Peony getting one of the worst starts I've actually ever seen on iRacing, losing 8 spots in the space of just a few seconds. But yeah, Lieb and Woodward getting the jump on Holkinen, and then unfortunately just got punted off down there into turn 4. It was a really unfortunate incident, not really much he could do there. Maybe he moved over. Oh no, I think it was Marty who he was involved in. I'm not sure who it was exactly, but yeah, just a really, really unfortunate incident for our pole sitter, and yeah, finds himself down in last place.
Yeah, he's going to have to try to work his way forward. 4 seconds to try to make up to the back of Marty here as we look at James Kalinowski right now, leading a little bit of a train over Wolter, Hearn, and Peony right now, and really the rest of the field kind of stacking up behind that number 1 machine as your leaders, Lieb and Woodward, are going to cross over and start on lap number 2 here. 1 lap already in the books as we work our way towards a full 17 laps around this circuit. Waiting to see here if the 13 of Dakota Wolter is going to be able to take a move down into Druids. He's going to have a look down into the inside, muscles the 9 out of the way, but locks up the brakes.
Yeah, that's going to be a fatal, fatal error. Not only did he lose another spot there, falling down to 7th place, he's now absolutely roasted and toasted those tyres, and is going to be under pressure from the 2 drivers behind. Excuse me, and yeah, as you can see, just really holding up this train behind him as Gonzaga, who I actually believe was the driver who punted off Holkinen, and I'm not, again, 100% sure on that. You have this train now back behind Walter, and Renwood as well, trying to just find a gap, but as we know around here at Brands Hatch, it's not an easy track to overtake at all. A lot of these corners, not really heavy braking zones, nice fast sweeping corners with lots of elevation changes. There's Ringwood going for an opportunistic move, and that's everyone getting bunched up. That's Walter round.
And that's Walter around. We'll have to maybe go back at a replay to make sure that that was contact. I believe it was, as they tried to dive down to the inside there, coming through Sheens. Here is the replay. Dakota Walter in that number 13 red machine, diving down to his inside. That's going to be Ringwood here in the number 6, as there's a little bit of muscling out of the way. Didn't actually look like it was contact there. I think that was a little bit of a self-spin by Walter.
Yeah, just completely ran wide. I think as a result of that lockup, which, as we've spoke about so many times with this car, it does affect you for about a lap and a half, and it just ruins your tires, gives you so much more understeer than you usually would get. And yeah, just thought he had too much grip going into that corner, completely misjudged it, and yeah, ended up on the wrong side of the track. And speaking of which, there's Gonzaga going round.
Oh, as he is going to be sent off and around there. Not a good run for them, but we are going to look back up at the front of the field here at this point. Santiago Lieb leading the way right now. Woodward behind him, trying to close in a little bit more. And this is the battle up for the lead of the race.
Yeah, Woodward looking pretty good. We know Woodward is a very consistent and safe driver, doesn't really tend to make too many mistakes, and is a very clean driver. Again, not really seen him all season get involved in many accidents that were contributed for him, as the only accident he's really been involved in is Laguna Seca, which wasn't his fault at all. And yeah, he's sort of on the same pace as Santiago Lieb at the moment. I mean, look at that, within 100 of each other on that last lap. They do seem to be quite a step ahead of the field, although speaking of which, Ringwood setting the fastest lap there, 2/10 quicker than our leaders at the moment. He seems to be on some good form right now, but unfortunately has a lot of ground to make up if he wants to get anywhere near those two, as he's got a few cars to go through and then to catch up 6 seconds.
Yeah, a whole 6 seconds to try to get that done, and I think the hardest part about being able to do all of that is getting through all of the cars in front of him. Still that train continuing on here at this point as they work their way down Pilgrim's Drop right now, heading into Hawthorne Bend. We're going to check a little bit farther up in the field, just one position actually. That's Raffaele Pione here, trying to get a little bit of an attack on Mark Hearn, and we really haven't gotten a chance to talk about it, but really and truly here, Aaron, the best way to try to get around another car on this circuit is just put pressure to the back and try to force one of those errors, or get your muscles out and try to move those elbows around here like we're seeing Pione do right there.
Yeah, you've either got to just shove your nose down the inside like Ringwood is round the final corner. They go side by side. This is a corner where you can go side by side nice and wide, especially on entry, as there's Lieb setting another fastest lap of the race, a 1/10 of a second quicker than Woodward right now, as Pione then just seems to be struggling now, being overtaken by Ringwood and has fallen behind a little bit. About 8/10 he's just lost from that mistake in turn one. And Ringwood now going to be opportunistic and try and poke his nose down the inside, which is, as we were describing, kind of one of the only ways you can overtake round here. You got to sort of half send it, force a mistake, and also this corner, I believe it's turn 5. The braking seems to be all over the place in these cars. And this is Ringwood's opportunity. It looks like he's getting the slipstream all the way down this straight into Hawthorne. And yeah, gets the overtake done. I think Hearn made it a little bit easy for him there.
Yeah, I think Hearn certainly saw the writing on the wall and opted to get out of the way there and really just kind of let that happen there. As now that is going to put Ringwood up into that 5th place position. He's going to have Kalinowski up ahead of him. And remember, not too long ago, we were talking about how that number 9 machine looked like it was holding up the pack a little bit. Well, it certainly doesn't look like the case here. All that fighting behind has allowed for Kalinowski to be able to build about a 1.5, 1.6 second gap on the rest of that train.
Yeah, it's already starting to see that the time difference between these guys is still the top two setting the pace right now, as they've kind of stepped away from everyone else, and the pace that Ringwood seem to have, as we mentioned, coming through the field does just slow you down a lot. He seems to have the pace as he goes for another overtake there up to P5, but yeah, everyone else in front kind of taking advantage of these guys battling and are just starting to get themselves into cleaner, setting good laps and charging on ahead. Myler as well, we've not really spoken to him about him at all actually. He's sitting comfortably up in 3rd, gained 3 places off the start, just sort of slipped through the cracks and avoided everyone. And there's Hulkinen trying to make his way through the field up into 9th place. But yeah, Bruno Myler going pretty strong right now, being fairly silent, but sometimes no news is good news.
Exactly. I think especially around a circuit like Brands Hatch, where those mistakes are so easily made, that a good run here from Myler is there. You see Kalinowski catching a little bit of that grass around the outside.
Round.
Oh, Woodward off, coming down through Clark Curve. He is going to call that wrong. He's desperately trying to get that number 1 machine back onto the circuit, but here comes Myler saying thank you very much, and don't look now, Kalinowski may be able to take advantage of this as well.
I think I may have accidentally commentated Curse Woodward. As I said, he's not made a mistake all season, and then he goes in and does one. Thanks, Woodward, and I shall also punch myself in the face because I did not mean to jinx him at all, but sometimes it happens, and I feel really bad. Let's hope he can keep it on the track for the rest of the race as Myla in front did make a little bit of a lock-up into, I believe it was Droids, and yeah, he could have opened up that gap a little bit more to Woodward, but has just allowed Woodward to get back into that slipstream. And isn't going to be under attack just yet, but is going to be very, very close coming through this middle sector.
Yeah, very close indeed here. And we know the outright pace that Woodward has, by the way. His fastest lap is a 1:19.28. That is about 0.6 of a second faster than Bruno Meiler's fastest lap. So clearly that number one machine has got the pace to be able to get on by. It's just going to be a matter here of if he is able to send anything down to one of these corners.
Yeah, and he's going to have to just pinch a nose up the inside at some point, or wait for that a very, very long back straight, which is sort of the only time you can slipstream and have it be effective at all. There's Ringwood putting on a good move for 4th place in front of Kalinowski. And that looked like a pretty easy overtake as you come down turn 1, but actually Kalinowski's not going to give this one up, but gets it all wrong and just manages to keep it out of the gravel. We've seen a few drivers make that mistake into Droids a few times, just lock a brake and nearly go into the gravel, and he's surely going to be under pressure from behind as those front tyres are going to be absolutely ruined.
Yeah, and he's going to be scrambling for grip here at this point, and Mark Hearn is certainly going to know that. They're behind in the number 11 machine as he tries to push his way ahead. We take a look at the UKNI driver right now. He's also got Rafael Peone there behind him in that number 2 machine, so he's going to have to keep his eyes open both in front and behind here at this point as they now dive into the corner. And let's not sleep on Christopher Yanakis there in the number 5 behind them. He could certainly be able to take advantage if these two start to get into a little bit of a spat here. Almost a look down to the inside there for Peone going down into Sterling's, but that's going to be able to be rebuffed for Mark Hearn. He's looking very good here at this point, just trying to keep everything together as we start on lap number 9 here of 17 again. A good run here for Peone as they come across the start-finish stripe. He's going to fade down to the inside going into Paddock Hill Bend, but it's not quite going to be enough. There he might have a little bit of a run as they come down into Druids, but sweeping around the outside is the 11 of Hearn. He's going to be able to hold that at bay for now. Another lock up in front. I believe that was Kalinowski as here comes Yanakis trying to be able to get a move there on the number 5. He's going to look down to the inside of Graham Hill Bend, but door is shut by Peone.
Yeah, good little battle there going on as these guys battle it out for the mid places right now. And yeah, everyone's scrambling to try and find different lines and try and just shove the other driver out of the way fairly. But yeah, just trying to put them off however they can. And while they're at it, they are losing a bunch of time. It has to be said they've lost about 4 seconds to the leading pack right now. And the driver in first place, they've lost 10 seconds to him. So battling may be fun and could gain you a position. But yeah, this man is having a field day right now. Absolutely running away with it. As that's Hearn, I believe, off the track. He's going to have to be careful when rejoining. Oh, no.
And that was Yanakis there that he got into contact with. I believe that may have been a little bit of a touch there behind as well. Ooh, as they are not happy drivers there trying to get themselves back out onto the track. Probably some hefty damage there in both the 11 and the number 5 machine. And unfortunately, there almost nothing Mark Hearn could do. He was trying to slow that car coming across the grass, but there was just no traction.
Yeah, I mean, braking on grass, not the greatest thing in the world. It doesn't really do much as... especially in these cars which don't have ABS, the second you press the brakes on grass, they immediately just lock up, and yeah, you just sort of slide on the grass and just sort of sit there hopelessly waiting to come back onto the track and hope that no one's in front of you. But yeah, unfortunately there, obviously nowhere near intentionally. We've all done it, just helplessly slid across some grass and accidentally crashed into someone. And yeah, unfortunate 3-car incident there, sort of putting an end to all of their races, especially Hearn and Yankis. And yeah, really unfortunate incident as they were having quite a nice battle down there in P8, but Yeah, the drivers behind benefiting, but Hulkinen surely is not going to be very happy as it's cost him 5 seconds to the car ahead. But these guys up the front surely are going to be happy. I think Woodward probably kicking himself after that mistake. Possibly could have been a win today, maybe if he had kept his nerve. But nevertheless, just has to get on with the task at hand and try and get back up into second place.
Well, he's certainly keeping the pressure here to the back of Bruno Myler as they now work their way into Druids on lap 11. But I've also got to give some credit here to Ringwood behind in that number 6 machine. Plenty of good speed being carried through there and keeping the pressure on the back of the Racing Pointless driver up in front here as Robert Woodward tries to continue himself around. There we see working their way through Surtees right now. Here's that draft that you talked about a little bit earlier. Really the only opportunity on the circuit that you're going to get any of that draft is coming down Pilgrim's Drop here and down on the run into Hawthorne Bend. They're going to say about equidistant, maybe a little bit of a wiggle up in front from Myler, but Woodward's going to be able to keep it pointed the right way. This just looking like a little bit of a battle of wills here at this point as they're all just going to try to keep things together. Big lock up in front, though.
That's the lead.
That's the lead. That's the leader making a mistake, and just like that, that 5-6 second advantage is reduced down to under 2.
Yeah, that's absolutely thrown a spanner into this race. It's not quite given the guys behind an opportunity just yet, but coming through this middle sector, he is admittedly extremely lucky. He caught that car just about when he needed to, but a tiny mistake just slipping it down the inside, and that's Ringwood slipping it down the inside of Woodward. And I don't know if it's a good idea for these guys to be battling, because Woodward and Ringwood, as we know, are very, very fast drivers, but they did. I mean, Leap's just made a mistake. This might be their one and only opportunity. I don't know if they're aware that he's made a mistake. Surely they are. And I don't know if they're frantically just trying to say, all right, I'm quicker than you. I want to get in front. I need to chase this guy down. But I still think that gap is too big. And there's Marty just keeping out of the wall.
And that is on the exit there of Sterling's, of Surtees there. A little bit of a problem for Marti, but we check back in on Bruno Myler. He is immune to the battle going on behind him here at this point between Ringwood and Woodward as they now work their way through Sterling's, trying to be able to close in. It looks like Leap has been able to hold that gap here at this point to about 1.9, 1.2 seconds, but as we saw on the last lap, it looks like here in that last sector that Myler is able to gain a little bit of time and a little bit of running here at this point. As now they're going to cross over the line, working on lap number 13. Only 5 laps to go around this relatively tight circuit, and now here comes Ringwood looking for a position. He looks to be aggressive here out of the number 6.
Yeah, he's run a really, really good race so far, up 10 spots from last place, I believe. And it would be such a story if he finished first in this race. He's looking to be the quickest driver on the track right now. He's going for the move into Surtees for P2. This line isn't ideal for the exit, as Myler might be able to snatch back second place. And Woodward's looking for a piece of the pie as well. The gap between these three is only about 3/10. It's now down to 2 between them as they come into Hawthorne. Now just not really anything any of them could do, as they were so close to each other that an overtake would have just really damaged all of their races. And Woodward now really getting frustrated behind Myler, as there's the tap that I was hoping wouldn't happen.
And that is going to be Robert Woodward around. He's going to drop all the way down into 6th position. Just the merest little bit of contact there between himself and Myler, it looks like, was enough to be able to send that number 1 machine around. He will find himself now able to continue on in 6th place. Only about 0.8 of a second up to Kalinowski. He'll maybe be able to claim a top 5 by the time everything is said and done. As we now get started on lap number 14 here from Brands Hatch. Myler trying to be able to see if he's able to close in on Ringwood after that contact, but that doesn't look like where the battle is. I think after that it's going to be from behind, with Raffaele Pione here starting to close in, and that number 2 looking to put pressure onto the back of the number 7.
Yeah, I think Myler now needs to just no, never mind. What I was going to say gets thrown completely out the window as Pione already overtakes him, but I do believe Myler either has damage or just his tyres are absolutely gone after that little spin with Woodward. I would like to get a replay of actually what happened, because I believe Woodward, as I was saying, literally a second before it happened, he just was starting to get too frustrated behind Myler. As Myler isn't slow, but he was just holding him up, as you can see through there. He lost a bunch of time, and I don't know if oh yeah, oh dear, oh yeah, that's the, I was going to mention this earlier on. The struggle through this middle sector is everyone takes such different lines, lifts off differently, and some people actually break, and yeah, that's the difference. Myler broke and Woodward didn't.
Yeah, and you've got to be super aware of anything like that when you're coming down through the corners that close to one another. By the way, Peone was able to get on by Myler here at this point, so move the Italian up into the final podium position. As we check back in on the battle with Kalinowski and Woodward right now, it looks like Woodward's going to go for that move coming up into Druid, sends the number 1 down to the inside, side by side on the exit of the corner, contact, and that's going to send Woodward around for what is the 3rd time today, and that is going to be Kalinowski able to get on through, and now Hulkinen's able to gain a position back.
I'm not really sure what happened there. It was kind of like Vettel and Webber in 2010 at Turkey. They kind of just merged towards each other. That was really awkward. We're going to get a replay of exactly what happened. Coming into Detroit, Woodward sends it down the inside. It's fairly done, not quite though. He has the right. Yeah, I'm going to have to put that on Woodward, I'm afraid. He kind of just moved over on him, expected him to move out of the way. And yeah, I mean, Kalinowski helped the right to that line. And yeah, I'm going to have to say that was Woodward's fault.
Yeah, Kalinowski was clearly alongside and had the ability to be able to get that line. He was entitled to it. As he said, I've got to fully agree with you there, Aaron. As now we do focus on Kalinowski, as he looks like he's going to be able to hold on here for the moment to a 5th place position. But he does have to watch out. Hulkinen only about 8/10 of a second behind him here at this point. This could develop up for a battle in the last 2 laps of this race if they're not careful. Also looks like Lieb isn't out of the woods there. Ringwood bringing that gap down just under a full second here at this point as we check in on the 3 up at the front of the field. Both of these battles could fire off before this race is said and done.
Yeah, I was just looking at that gap tumbling down. As these guys are taking very different lines, as we saw there through Surtees. Lieb gained around 0.2 of a second through Hawthorne now. I think it was sort of evenly matched. Maybe Ringwood was a little bit quicker, but through this middle sector, they seem to be relatively on par. Ringwood is ever so slightly quicker. I'm not sure how Lieb is feeling with the pressure on his shoulders right now, but on this lap so far, Lieb has actually managed to pull away by around 0.2 of a second. And as long as he just keeps his nerve on the final lap, I think he just had a really bad lap 15 as he's going very wide through that final corner. As long as he can just keep his nerve on this final lap, he's got a second to play with. I think he'll come home with the win just fine.
Yeah, I think he will too at this point, but he does lose a little bit of time there coming through the first corner, but he's able to gain it back up on corner exit. So I guess that is a prime example of slow in, fast out coming to play for Santiago Lieb here at this point. The number 3 now working his way through Graham Hill Bend. A little bit of a wide run for Ringwood behind as he just tries to be able to take every advantage that he can. There's also Peone there that you saw in the background, as it does look like we've got a little bit of side-by-side. Hulkinen has had enough waiting around. He sends it around the outside there of Graham Hill Bend and move your former pole sitter up into P5 after that disastrous first lap. This has got to be a little bit of redemption here for the number 8.
Yeah, a very impressive performance, it has to be said, going from last to 5th now. But one man who I think has put on an even more impressive performance is definitely Ringwood, going from last to 2nd. Oh, wow.
And there... Wow. The commentator's curse is strong with you today, Aaron, is Ringwood going for a spin. My goodness, he's going to find his way all the way back down into 4th, and that is just going to allow here for Santiago Lieb to come across the start-finish line here at this point and take victory from Brands Hatch. A bit of a surprising second place is Rafael Peone after that disastrous start.
Miles spun as well.
P2. Here we go. This is going to be close to the line. It's going to be Ringwood holding on to it, then Hulkinen, Kalinowski, and Myler up in your top 6.
Oh, that's Marty as well. Everyone's had enough on this final lap. I don't even know what to, what's going on? What?
That's Yanakis there having a problem, almost taking a pit stop as he's going to have to come back out here. He will be scored in 11th out of 12 finishing here at this point. He is going to be able to get that car across the line. These tires just look like they were in a whole world of trouble at the end of this race.
I just think everyone on that final lap just gave up. I mean, Ringwood, I don't even know what to say. I was literally saying he had an impressive performance, which he still did. He still finished third somehow. Admittedly, I don't know how he pulled that one off, but yeah, I mean, wow. I am so sorry to half the grid. I don't know what to say. Oh no, I've really let myself down. Oh.
As we watch here the recovery lap, the reconnaissance coming back into the pit lap here for JPW Ringwood, who was able to finish third, still up 10 positions on the day. Not a bad run there for this number 6 driver, but I'm sure he would have loved to have been able to hold on to P2 if he was able to. It's going to go ahead and run you through our final finishing order here from Brands Hatch. It was Santiago Lieb able to take victory over Raffaele Pione. Then it was this man, JPW Ringwood, who was able to come home in P3. Mika Holkkonen able to recover from a scruffy first lap to come home in P4, followed by James Kalinowski to round out your top 5. Then it was Bruno Myler and Robert Woodward, who just had a few too many mistakes out there to be able to claim a good result. He'll come home in 7th. Then Dakota Walter, Vitali Mafienze, followed by Roger Marti, Christopher Yanakis, Mark Hearn, and Jorge Gonzaga will round out your 13-car grid as we watch Ringwood bringing that car down into pit lane here at this point. And well, at this point, Aaron, we can start to turn our eyes to next week, which is the big one. It is the seasonal trip that we take to the Nordschleife. That is going to be a test in and of itself.
Yeah, I think if half the grid decided to throw it away on the last lap around Brands Hatch, they're going to have a field day next week in Germany. And yeah, I mean, that's sort of a classic in Radicals, that season finisher at Nordschleife. And it's one race that everyone's going to want to be participating in and everyone is going to want to be watching. And for us, it's going to be one we want to commentate.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's going to be a great race to be able to check in, and that will be next Friday. You're not going to want to miss that one at all. Same time, same channel here on Apex Racing TV. As we just give a couple of seconds here to see if we're going to have anybody popping on into the interview booth here to join us by the end of the day. And I think the big storyline coming out of here is going to be tires. It just looked like tires were absolutely giving up around this circuit, and it just continues to be a reminder here, Aaron, that you have got to keep everything underneath you and preserve those tires as much as possible.
Yeah, we saw endless amounts of lockups. Actually, today we saw way too many, and I think some of the drivers do just need to tone it down a bit, as not only does the lockups ruin your tires at that moment, it then gives you tremendous amounts of understeer for about a lap, maybe 2, which then kills your front tires even more, which then means you're more frustrated, which means you're more likely to ruin your rear tires as well. And yeah, it all just, everything goes terribly. And yeah, I just think this track admittedly is quite bad for tires, but yeah, the Nordschleife is probably going to be a tiny bit worse.
Yeah, it's going to be a tiny bit worse, I think, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And again, that will take place on March 3rd, next Friday, so make sure to tune in to Apex Racing TV for that. But as for today, on behalf of myself, DJ Clark, Aaron Smith, who has joined me up here in the commentary booth, and Samuli Kumo, who is working behind the scenes as our director and producer, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action, and until we see you out on the track, thanks for watching.